Baylor's a big win. And then there's big wins, like solid wins, ones that you should be winning, and you do. You perform as expected, maybe even a little bit better tonight. 15-point win for the Cougs against hottest team in college basketball. So anytime you can just show up to expectations and even exceed them, even if you are already expected to win, I think it's huge. Not every big win has to be, you're the underdog. You weren't expecting it. We both saw BYU winning this game by, semi-comfortably, and that's what they did. And if you're BYU, you got to be feeling great.
Yeah, big quad 2 win, this Kansas State team. We talked about it on the podcast. They were one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in the country, coming into this game with 6 straight wins, with wins against Arizona, at Iowa State, Kansas. I don't know how much that Kansas win, after Utah won tonight. But anyhow, they get those 3 massive wins coming into tonight. They're feeling hot, and BYU responded in the perfect way possible. And I want to start off at the very beginning of the game, Chase. Something that really jumped out to me was Keba Keita dictated the energy in this game from the jump, and it was immediate.
It was immediate, and the impact cannot be understated. Just go watch that game again and just look at the difference with Kansas State driving to the basket when he was on the floor. They were scared to put the ball up because he was, 5 blocks tonight. A lot of them were like loud and just incredible to watch, right? But he was such a force inside. Dudes were scared to shoot, and he was making everyone think second about driving. And at the end of the day, I think that was the big difference. Kansas State, not a great three-point shooting team, obviously, and didn't shoot amazing tonight. So that's where they got their production. When he was in the game, he shut it down. And setting the tone is what you need to do in these types of games, especially at home. And I think Keba was the one to do that tonight.
Absolutely. And you could really notice a difference. I think Kevin Young talked about in the press conference, I think all 3 of the centers played well tonight. I think really mostly everybody played well tonight. Everybody played their role in a very good way. But that's just one thing I noticed. And you could see from the jump after he had that big swat at the beginning, and the energy just came out. And it's just a really good thing that, okay, you get that big win against West Virginia, and you didn't fumble, you didn't crumble. This was an easy look-ahead spot, Chase. This was an easy trap game with the Kansas Jayhawks coming here on Tuesday night with the team sandwich in there who's a little off the bubble. You look at the record, you go, I don't know. Would have been very easy for BYU to look past this Kansas State team. They definitely did not. They game planned perfectly for this game tonight. And the other thing that I came away from this game was, maybe this was the first time all season I felt like BYU dominated a team physically. Kansas State looked much softer than BYU tonight, and especially when you look down, it was Coleman Hawkins versus Dallin Hall in the first half. He had him one-on-one in the post, and Dallin kind of body bagged him a little bit, bullied him. You thought it was mouse in the house. No, Dallin Hall pushed him out, and BYU's physicality was real tonight.
It was a big deal. And you're like, we talk about Cable and those blocks. It was the entire team, especially the guard play. BYU's weakness this season is playing on-ball defense with shifty guards. They were awesome tonight. They were staying in front of guys. They were switching, but it never felt like they had a mismatch. Kansas State is, and you're right. And that down hall play, you watch that, it tells you all you need to know about this game. I think that's the microcosm of what exactly happened tonight. BYU wasn't scared. They weren't intimidated by a 6-game winning streak, the hottest team in college basketball. Kansas State does have talent. They put a lot of money into their roster, right? You didn't care. And they were willing to put their bodies on the line and just play tough defense. The defense in the first half was just like some of the best maybe the best I've seen from BYU all season. Holding Kansas State is just 22 points. The on-ball stuff, keeping them away from the basket, and then Cable obviously protecting the rim. BYU didn't foul. They didn't in the first half. They didn't have all these ticky-tack fouls. They were playing solid defense.
There were plenty of fouls in the second half.
Yeah, that's a completely different story, obviously. But no, I thought that tonight it was all about setting the tone. It was about sending a message to Kansas State, to the rest of the Big 12, to themselves, maybe more than anyone, that you can play this style of basketball all season long.
Yep.
So
And
Big step.
Yeah, it was a huge step. And you talk about it from the bubble standpoint tonight. Kansas State, if you look at Lenardi's stuff, Kansas State, I think, was on the next 4 out coming into tonight. BYU was in that last 4 in conversation. There's been a lot of jumbling around in the bubble today, a lot of bubble off games with Wake, SMU, Boise State, San Diego State, and all that. But I think if the tournament started tomorrow, BYU's looking at a position where they're not going to Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah, I think you're totally right.
And now you're in this position right now where, look, you go 1-1 this next week. Now you're talking about, okay, now you're starting to play for just seeding if you can go 1-1 this next week. And that is such a difference from when we were talking about this game post Utah. And even just after Cincinnati, you go, all right. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, just get in the tournament. And I still think that should be the motto of, look, let's not get ahead of ourselves. 2 very, very tough opponents coming up. Kansas is going to be pissed off coming off a loss at the Huntsman Center tonight. So I'm just really impressed with BYU tonight.
I am too. It wasn't like super flashy win. They didn't shoot amazing.
No.
It was just a good, solid, like, we are just going to win tonight. We're going to play smart. We're going to play tough, be physical, play solid D, and win the game. It didn't take special sauce. It just took a good, solid, fundamental game. And that's some nights you need that. In fact, every night you need that. Sometimes you have special nights, right, where you shoot the lights out or have some crazy plays here and there. But tonight was just solid hoops, man. Get it done, and they got it done. Like, this is a great win. I know it's like quad 2, Kansas State, probably not a tournament team. They're going to be fighting for first spot here at the end of the season, things like that. It's not one that you're going to look back on and say it defined the season, but it's just like solid, the ones that you need, the foundation of those massive wins that you have later on in the season.
And we've talked about it time and time again, just building that confidence going forward and everything. Yeah. Another thing to touch on from tonight, Chase, 20 of 26 from the free throw line.
Yep.
20 of 26 from the free throw line. And they won this game shooting 6 of 23 from 3. That's very impressive.
Yeah, it's very impressive. And we said in the preview, shout out Zach, had a great question on Twitter. He was like, what does BYU need to shoot to win games?
We said 30.
We were like 30% is pretty much the threshold. Anything lower, you're struggling. Shot 26%, you won by 15 here. And it's because like all these fundamentals, that's what I'm talking about. Solid basketball includes hitting your free throws.
Yep.
It includes grabbing rebounds, which they out-rebounded Kansas State by 10. It includes playing solid, straight-up defense, right, and being smart. And so I think the free throws are a direct result of the right headspace for BYU, of being focused and just doing your job in the moment. And so 2026 is by far the best performance we've seen from the stripe from this team all season. And if they can do that consistently, we can see here they're a totally different team. I mean, imagine if they had this sort of percentage in some of these other games, we'd be talking about seeding instead of bubble right now.
And there was a lot more free throws at the end because of Jerome Tang wanting to have this game go well past midnight if it was his choice, and just a lot of fouls and all that kind of good stuff at the end. But on the flip side, talking about Dallin Hall, they were penetrating tonight and they were getting to the paint. And we have talked about it so much, Chase. Dallin Hall getting to the basket, what that does for this team, how different of a player he is when he does that, and how that opens up everything. When these guards are able to penetrate, everything opens up. What you saw Foose. A huge reason why Foose had a great night tonight is because Dallin Hall was able to put the defense on their toes tonight. And just a credit to him staying ready and just finally what we've been preaching nonstop, actually we see on the court.
Yeah, he said after the game, he's like, my teammates, my coaches have been getting on me. I almost was like, he didn't give us a shout out, which I thought was a little weird, but we've also been getting on him.
Yep.
Just to be aggressive. They're seeing what we're seeing. They see a lot better than we do, obviously. But he is at his best when he attacks. Good things happen, I swear, 9 out of 10 times, maybe even more, when he just goes to the basket and he was getting fouled, making free throws, he was finishing or finding Foose almost every single time. And so Kevin Young said after the game, he said, I thought Dallin carried us. He said the word carried us, put us on his back in the second half. And I believe he said 14 points in the second half. A lot of them came from free throws. But also he was knocking them down 7-9 from the line, right? And that's just the Dallin that we've been wanting to see all season, that we saw a lot last season. And it's when he's at his absolute best. It's just going to the basket. And I thought everyone did a great job of that. There was not, if you look at the shooting chart, everything, and Jerome Tang said it. I think he said BYU leads the conference in 3-point attempts and then percentage of shots taken at the rim or something like that. And I'm telling you, that is exactly how you want to play basketball, folks, especially in college, especially with this team and what they're doing. And if you're going to go far, you take the smart shots. And so BYU, I think they figured it out here. Now, there were a few possessions. You and I turned to each other. We're like, this offense is awful right now. It's disgusting. So it's not perfect. There are still moments when they just get muddled down and they end up settling for Trey Stewart 33-footer, which is not his fault, right? They just pass it to him with 2 seconds.
Well, that's what we talked about in that clip we put out right before the game started. Was sometimes this offense breaks down and all of a sudden the one action doesn't happen and it's just everyone's standing around like, I don't know, you're supposed to do it. No, you're supposed to do it. And then it's kick out. And there was a lot less of that tonight, but BYU put themselves in a position. Look, if you have a couple of those in the second half, it doesn't matter. Yeah. They put themselves in such a good position to start that second half.
What I was going to say is, I think that they have potential for those moments again, but because they're being aggressive, they cover up for it, right? They're like, Down's like, okay, play's broken. Guess what? I'm just going to get to the rim. Right? And that's what and Richie was a great, like a lot of drives to the baseline and things like that. And so,
Another thing I wanted to point out from the stat sheet tonight, Yegor 8 assists tonight. Like,
6 in the first half.
He had 5 points total, I think, tonight. He had that 3. So 5 points total tonight. Not a great scoring night. He didn't need to. He got everybody else involved. They probably watched a lot of the West Virginia film and said, oh, he's willing to go to the basket and lay it up. And then Yegor he let the game come to him tonight and said, I'm not going to force threes. I'm not going to settle for threes. I'm not going to force these layups if they're not there. I'm just going to find my guys if they're there. And he played his game tonight, 8 assists, great night for him. Yep. The other thing on the stat sheet I really wanted to mention was I think we need to start taking plus-minus with a grain of salt, Chase. The fact that Kay Bakeda had -5 on the plus-minus, he was so good defensively tonight. We cannot emphasize it enough how good he was and how impactful he was. Like you said at the start, guys, Kansas State, when there was, depending on the matchup, when Foose was in, they were wanting to penetrate more and were having more success. When Kay Bakeda was in, they were scared to go in the paint, and that presence was felt, and that forced them to settle for more three-point shots and tougher twos. And that does not show up on the stat sheet, but, man, his impact was felt tonight.
Huge. It was absolutely huge. I really think all three bigs played within themselves. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, right? And we really got to see the Bosco minutes also combined with, Foose and him in the court at the same time and Cabe and him at the court at the same time. And also I got to give a lot of credit to Kevin Young and the coaching staff, because there in the second half when Kansas State was making a run, they got within, I believe, 10 or maybe 11 or 12. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like, okay, they're coming back here. Tang got that technical. They seemed fired up, right? BYU wasn't scoring. He decided to go small with Bosco at the 5 and really adjusted well to what Kansas State was trying to do, both offensively and defensively, to BYU.
This might have been a record for the amount of substitutions in a game tonight. The amount of it was offense defense for the last 3 minutes, and then it was like a freaking gun duel. Just timeout. No, I'll call timeout. No, I'll call another timeout at the very end there. They just kept extending that game.
Yeah, but shout out Kevin Young for figuring it out. He said afterwards, like, it took me a while to figure out who's going to fit on the court here in the second half, but he eventually did. He played 11 guys tonight, and all of them played 8 minutes or more, right?
Yeah.
And that is unheard of in college basketball. Like, to your point, a lot of substitutions here. But like you said, I think they all made an impact. And they all played within themselves and did what they were intended to do. And credit to Kevin Young. That's hard to have 11 guys that you feel like, I got to play all of them, and you got to find the right combinations, put them at the right times, do all the substitution patterns. It worked out, and we've seen it now 2 games in a row, right? With obviously the Bosco's heroics just last week, and now here, not last week, but you know what I'm saying? He's figured out a little bit of the rotation here. Now there might be specific moments, right? And we're going to see different games where maybe it's not a Bosco night, maybe it's not a Foose night, whatever. But got to give credit to him for the way he handled the substitution, especially in the second half.
And I've talked about it throughout this podcast over the last couple of months, where during that 3-4 game skid or whatever it was at the beginning of January in Big 12 play, in this era of NIL and college basketball, guys can check out. We've seen it at so many programs right now. Kansas State at one point was completely gone. They were completely checked out. And who knows, that might turn again depending on how these next few games go for them. But with BYU and Kevin Young, they could have checked out. They could have said, you know what? We're still getting paid. We're still getting our checks, whatever. It's fine. We're not going to make it to March Madness. All of these dudes, all 11 of them that played tonight, were still so bought in. And that's a credit to this coaching staff for keeping these guys bought in and saying, hey, we still got a chance at this thing. We can still do some amazing things this year.
Absolutely. So there's lots ahead of them, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But it is a huge credit. He said even after, and I'm just recapping the press conference at this point, but talk about Trey Stewart, where he actually came up to Trey like one day during practice. He's like, look, life's not fair. I know you're working hard, playing good, but you might not get in. Like, you might not be getting these minutes you want. And you gotta shout out Trey Stewart, all these guys, right, for keeping their heads down, working hard. Mawit Mag wasn't a part of the rotation 10 games in.
Yep. And
now,
then that Wyoming game at the Delta Center.
Now he's a starter. He's essential to this basketball team. The impact he has is unprecedented. And like, every one of these guys are staying locked in and focused. And it's a huge credit to all of them. I think it's a huge credit to coaching staff. I think they like playing for this team, and they understand, right? You know, if you're a player and you hear that, if you're Trey Stewart, you got to be like, oh, this sucks then. Like, he just told me in my face. He doesn't know if I'm going to play. And had the right attitude. It shows how much he respects Coach Young and the rest of the staff and their decisions and what they're doing and working on. And look, he's playing impactful minutes. They all are. Boscovich, Mag, these guys who we didn't expect to are now stepping up in a big way. And BYU's really found something here with their depth and with their ability to throw so many different guys at you and do so many different things. And they all make an impact. So,
and they all are somehow in rhythm. That's the craziest part. If you've ever played basketball, if you've ever been a hodgepodge player coming in and out of the lineup, or you've been in foul trouble, it's flat out almost impossible to maintain that rhythm and come off the bench and you're cold and stiff shooting a three. So anyhow, Chase, do we have any chats we need to answer?
We do have some chats. Shout out all of you for in the chat. Keep commenting. We'll get to them all. Nathan Hot Takes is back, of course. He says, first off, Dallin Hall is only just getting started, a little late in the season. Very true. It's just funny how, like, he was all the way in last season, and now it's taken some time. Obviously, he had that injury at the beginning of the season, things like that. It's different with the Jaeger and the way they're running the point, but he's really found his groove here. We need to keep seeing some more Dallin stuff. He also said at least 2 of the turnovers tonight were because Kansas State's road uniforms are too close to white.
I said that at the pregame. I said, I don't like this jersey matchup. For people that don't have great eyesight like myself, it was not pleasant.
Yeah.
I don't know how it looked on TV though.
I think they're sweet jerseys that you just can't be playing a white team in them.
I'll look up highlights real quick while you answer some chats. I want to see how this looked.
Let's go. Nathan again still. He says, there's no coach I would rather have drawing up inbound plays than KY. And I think you're absolutely right. And that goes to a lot. I think there's not a lot I would not any other coach I think is right for BYU basketball right now. It's Kevin Young, and he's doing a great job on and off the court. And it's showing it. There was moments there in the season, and there might be more moments after, right? There's going to be ugly losses, maybe this season, maybe next season, whenever, right? Where you start to question some things.
Or not,
or never. Maybe they never lose again.
Maybe they're just John Wooden, UCLA in the 70s.
But he's figured it out. I think, can we say that now, everyone? Enough people were calling for, maybe he's not the right guy for the job, things like that. I think he's figured it out. I think he's doing just fine. I think BYU got their guy. So.
And that's a reminder not to freak out whenever there's a loss where you go, oh, they shouldn't have lost that game. It's like, oh, Kevin Young's not the guy. I think it's just fine. To his point about the jerseys, look right here. Yeah, it looked pretty bad on TV.
TV is. I mean, in person was bad. TV's even worse.
Yeah, these are brutal.
Lighting is.
If you're watching from far away, your setup isn't close to you, that would have been a tough watch tonight.
Yeah, that would have been bad. Jack Carpenter is in the chat.
We got to talk about that. I hope Jack's still in here. I don't know when he responded to us in the chat.
Just a little context before I read Jack's comment. He did get to take the half-court shot there in the first half for, what was it? Was it?
I think it was $1,000.
$1,000?
I think it was $1,000.
First off, kind of a lame price for a half-court shot. You only got one shot.
Yeah, you should get $10,000.
$10,000. Come on. We've been to every home game. A lot of people have actually made that. And so maybe
they're just like, hey, man, the budget for this is cooked.
Qualtrics is getting a little scared. Yeah. Yeah. But Jack, the second part, Jack shot it. And he sent it into like the 5th row. Like it went over the backboard, my man.
Yeah, I'll spin zone it for Jack. I'm a Jack apologist here. So yeah, the ball did go about probably 5-10 feet past the backboard, but spin zone one. That means Jack was too strong for the half court shot.
Yeah, he's literally jacked.
He did have jitters, but yeah, he had a little too many jitters, and yeah, the prize, it's a little.
He would have been more locked in if it was more.
Yeah, if it was $10,000, maybe, yeah, that's tough.
It's tough. It was tough to watch, but but we still love our guy. He said here in the chat, what was worse, my half court shot or the last 2 minutes of that game? I got church tomorrow, bro.
I'm sorry, Jack. I think it's the last 2 minutes of that game. It's the last 2 minutes of that game. Also, with the half court shot, it was brutal because the studio or the in-game host or whatever said that was the worst shot of the season.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, like Jack's like on the floor. Like he hit the ground and the guy's like, that was the worst shot we've seen all season. Thanks for playing.
Like imagine if
kicking him while he's down, dude. It was brutal.
Also, we need stats department on that. I don't know if it's the worst shot of the season, but
we've seen some bad ones.
I feel like we've seen really bad. I feel like we've seen some that haven't like sniffed the rim.
We've seen a dude shoot free throws for 60 seconds and not make any of them.
Yeah, but for the half-court shot.
Oh, half-court shot? It's up there.
If you didn't see it, it's on our Twitter at ChurchBallPod. Yeah, the shot's on there, and we'll get them next time, Jack.
Next time. Hopefully there is.
Hopefully there is a next time.
And then our guy Nolan Mickelson, Yegor is the difference. Yegor the difference, Demon.
Shout out.
Great nickname that our guy Nolan came up with there.
8 assists tonight. Great game.
He is the difference. I think BYU's found so many things with so many different guys.
And they figured out what they're best suited for with this roster. They found out we are a team that needs to push the tempo. We are a team that needs to be aggressive and not play this slow, methodical, ISO, NBA-heavy style offense that you see Devin Booker and Kevin Durant run in Phoenix. Look, have you watched the Phoenix Suns lately? It's not pretty. And it wasn't pretty at the beginning of the season with this offense, and they figured it out, and figuring that out has shown – we keep crediting the coaching staff, but that is huge, man. And shout out to these players and these coaches for just figuring out what actually works with this roster.
Yeah, I don't want to say that we were like the ones that sparked that change.
We were pushing the narrative pretty hard.
I dare any of you go listen to the old pods and hear what we had to say. I mean, at the end of the day,
don't go to the preseason pods. I think someone some people on here said this is a second weekend team, which still could happen.
Yeah, what is that too crazy? I mean, come on now.
BYU goes to Denver. They get a nice little favorable matchup with maybe a team that, from Lexington to Kentucky. They play against Mark Pope. BYU versus Kentucky and Denver is what the people need.
Is what the people
And then in the second round, you play against like St. John's.
Oh, man.
That would be fun.
That would be so fun. That would be so fun. Well, if you're at BYU, just get to March. We want to watch this team in the tournament. They're good enough. They're that exciting. They have the firepower, the star power. They can hit threes. They can do all the things you want to see. We need to see this team in March. Jack's back. He says, nah, bro, I'm not sniffing another half-court shot. He's got like PTSD. He'll never shoot another one again. Just layups only for Jack from now on.
I feel bad, but that was hilarious.
It was the comment after that got me. But, all right, should we take a quick break?
Yeah, let's take a quick break, and we'll talk about BYU going forward right after this. Chase, what other chats we got?
We actually don't have much more, except Grant Farley says we got the matchup against Coleman Hawkins we wanted last year in the tournament. If you remember, if BYU beats Duquesne, they get to play Coleman Hawkins.
Great shout out, Grant.
Let's talk about this. Yeah, this is a good point. We haven't even talked about some of the Kansas State stuff. Coleman Hawkins, not great tonight. And that's a lot of credit to BYU. Like we said, Dallin Hall was bodying him. Trevin Nell was giving him fits on defense. I mean, all these things. He only ended up with, I think, 6 points total. He did grab 8 boards. Not a single three-pointer made. It's a lot of money going to a guy putting up those stats, Karter.
Yeah, and I think BYU saw something in the scouting, and to be honest, I think they saw that he can struggle against smaller guards that get up in his grill and try to, go toe-to-toe with him. Because, you talk about, like, Dallin. Dallin almost has a little bit of that, like, wrestler's build, kind of. He's a little stockier. And, Dallin was clearly stronger than him tonight. And he would try to go one-on-one and go boom, boom, go into him. And nothing. Dallin wasn't going anywhere. Coleman Hawkins couldn't get anywhere. I think he had that one hook shot on Dallin, which was just based on height at that point. But this BYU coaching staff clearly saw something and goes, look, we are okay if he gets switched on to guards because we think our guards are strong enough that we can cause trouble against them.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And that's great scouting by the team there. The big focus was Doug McDaniel. They had Mawit Mag or Trey Stewart, whoever, face guarding him the entire night, and he still scored 22 points, Carter. But it wasn't at all like loud or backbreaking. Obviously, BYU walking away with this one comfortably. I still thought they did really good on him. Even though you look at the stats, you're like, oh, wow, 22 is kind of a lot. I think it was more of just like he was just going to get his eventually. And a lot of it came, not a lot, but a few of it came towards the end there, big three. And,
they came from tough shots.
Like BYU still played incredible defense. And then they neutralized quite literally everyone else. Brandon Austin had 12, CJ Jones 9. No one else was really getting up after you, and it's all credit to BYU defense. This is what we wanted to see because the problem for BYU was the defense and the way we were playing, and they tonight was really, really good.
And we talked about this going into the preview where when I was watching the film on Kansas State and watching their games and their wins, and a lot of it came into buy-in, and they're getting a lot of stops on defense and causing teams into bad shots, but also a big part of it was they were just hitting tough shot after tough shot after tough shot. And when your confidence is high, look, you can hit any shot in the court. It doesn't matter who's in your face. It doesn't matter. And tonight, BYU punched him in the face first, and Kansas State, it's a little bit tougher when you're coming back in a game on the road and you're still taking terrible shot selection. It was awful shot selection from Kansas State tonight. Once again, credit to BYU's defense.
Big credit to BYU's defense. If they can play defense like that, it shows that you don't even have to shoot that amazing. Again, 26% from three. You're playing solid defense. You still win by 15.
So I think we've talked enough about the game for now. Do you want to do NCAA tournament, or do you want to talk about the message we got from inside the BYU coaching staff?
Let's stay basketball stuff first.
Okay, we'll save that for the end. Let's do basketball. NCAA tournament right now. Things are looking real good for BYU. I talked about it at the first part of this podcast, but once again, BYU going 1-1 in this next stretch is absolutely massive. They have a pretty favorable schedule going forward right now. If I can get it pulled up real quick, BYU, we got to get this pulled up. Pause.
We gotta. While you're doing that, we got a chat from Nathan. He makes a good point. It says about the game. So let this be our last word on the game tonight. He says, I had super high hopes for the Dallin, Dawson, Cannon, Mihajlo boost lineup that we saw in the first half, and they kept K-State on their toes for sure, but they barely scored. Thoughts? I think that's a great point, Nathan. That's a very versatile lineup there. You have Mihajlo playing the 5, so you're obviously going to be stretching it, but he held his own on defense tonight. I don't think he was a liability out there at all. You have Cannon, long, lengthy wing. He's guarding a lot of guards. He has a guard forced to guard him right there on the wing. He didn't get to score a lot tonight, but just his presence on the court there is big, right? Then you have Dallin and Dawson, who are really, 3-level scorers. And then you have Foose, right? The guy who's always been the tank down low and been able to score. So it's a very versatile lineup. They didn't get a lot of points. I think that was before Dallin started to be real aggressive. I think that lineup in the second half might be a little different with the way Dallin was playing. But I do think that defense ended up being okay. I think Mihajlo gives a little wrinkle there that helps him out a lot.
Absolutely. You want to look at schedules real quick?
Let's do it.
BYU going forward, home Kansas, at Arizona State, home West Virginia, at Iowa State, home Utah. You got 6 games left in the season. To be honest, you see 3 very winnable games that BYU should be favored in, likely will be favored in. Even Kansas, I still think BYU is probably favored against Kansas. I know that sounds crazy. 3-3, I think, gets you in the tournament.
Yeah.
3-3 gets you in. 4-2 is you are a lock and you are playing for seeding. somehow, some way, if this team went 5-1 in these next 6 games, they are all of a sudden looking at themselves as a 9, 8 seed with those kind of wins on your resume. If you win 5, 2 and 4 at that point, depending on where those losses are, 2 and 4, you're right on the fringe.
You gotta win some games.
You're at a coin flip at that point, and you got to win your first game in Kansas City at the Big 12 tournament, and then you're a coin flip to go to Dayton.
Yeah. So the BYU, look, you're taking it one game at a time, but if we're not, we're looking ahead. So 3 wins here.
500
the rest of the season, and you're dancing. You're dancing.
You're dancing at that point. 4-2, you are automatically in. It does not matter what happens in Kansas City at the Big 12 tournament. I think even if you go 4-2 in this closing stretch, I don't think you're even thinking about Dayton, regardless of what happens in Kansas City.
Yeah, 4-2, you're flirting with a 10 seed. I think at that point, you're starting to think maybe we get this.
Because if you're 4-2 at that point, that means you get a win against either Kansas, at Arizona, or at Iowa State. Gotta get one of those. That's the key. Win one of those. Get that high Q1 quality win. You're dancing.
Yeah, we'll break this down for you. So you have the 3 games that we think BYU should win. That's at Arizona State. By no means are they given.
Yeah.
At Arizona State, West Virginia here in Provo, Utah here in Provo, right? Those 3 games you're supposed to win. You should win. You're not taking anything for granted, but we're going to say those are the winnable games. Then you have the big 3 left, your 3 tough ones. Kansas, at Arizona, at Iowa State. And what Karter and I really think you need to do here, win one of the big 3 games. You got to beat either Kansas, Arizona, or Iowa State here, because another good quad 1 win is going to do wonders for their resume, because they loved, if you ever watch March Madness selection, they love to compare here. And they do this with bubble teams all the time to see who deserves what. And you see the quad 1, you see the net rating, you see the Ken Pom, all of these different things. They love to show best wins and worst losses. BYU, now you've avoided the very, very bad ones. There's a couple here that you could slip into, like, that's a little ugly, right? If you were to drop, say, the Utah game, for example. But now you just have opportunities to add to these wins, get these big ones. So at Arizona would be huge. At Iowa State, obviously huge. Even here, Kansas, even though they did just lose tonight to Utah, still huge. So if you're BYU, really focus on getting one of those big 3 and take care of business, and you're chilling.
Yep. And the other thing, if you're a BYU fan listening to this, the key is too, if you're, okay, what should I be rooting for? You need to be rooting against teams like Oklahoma, Texas, Vandy, San Diego State. That shouldn't be a hard one for you. Arkansas, Georgia, Nebraska, Wake Forest, SMU, VC. I think SMU should be out. I've looked at their resume. I think SMU should be out.
Yeah, we've run the numbers on it.
We've run the numbers. We did our homework. North Carolina, that's a whole different story. North Carolina should be out. You know what? We're going to do this. North Carolina should be out, but they're still in consideration with one of the worst resumes on the bubble. Oh, who's the chairman of the committee? Who's the chairman of the NCAA tournament committee? Oh, that's right. The North Carolina acting AD right now.
Weird.
Oh, that's not a conflict of interest, is it? He couldn't even say the 4-letter word of the team in Durham.
He couldn't read Duke's name. And you are the chair of the NCAA tournament committee. Like, what are we doing here? Can we not just hire guys that have zero affiliation with any school to run this? Why are we pulling ADs from other schools? I'm going on a rant right now. College football does the same thing.
Yep.
Like, let's just pull the Michigan AD. Great idea. Let's put every Big Ten team we can into this playoff. Why are we letting them do this? Why are we letting them get away with this? North Carolina this year has absolutely no business being anywhere near the bubble. Guess what? They're going to be talking about Selection Sunday. You know why? The freaking AD is running the thing.
And they have the name recognition as well on top of that. So, and yeah.
Listen, I'll do it. I'll be unbiased. I'm not the AD of any school. Let us run it, Karter.
I would be super biased. BYU would be a 5 seed. Duke would be the number 1 overall. Carolina would be in the WAC.
Demote them.
Utah would be Division 2.
Oh man.
Anyhow, let's wrap up here. The other thing is, if you listen to our last episode, at the end, Jack Carpenter, shout out, asked us a question about, what's the best wing place in Utah? And we talked about it, whatever. Get a message from certain member of the coaching staff, maybe a director of recruiting of some sort,
who listens to the podcast, who texted us, and it was just like out of nowhere about this because he had listened to the episode. So
I think it was this morning, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And get a text saying, "Hot take: wings are overrated." Thoughts?
I see where he's coming from.
I'll read the reasoning too. I don't want to hang him out to dry.
Yeah, you use his words. He had a very good reason, and I actually agree with this. Go ahead.
All right. So we respond. We're like, are they just overrated? Too pricey? That's kind of a spicy take. Anyhow, he responded. He said, "It's simple, really. The amount of effort that pause. Reread that. Come on, be better. It's a pro show, amateur hour over here. It's simple, really. The amount of effort needed to get that little amount of meat isn't worth it, and it's generally terrible that you have to disguise with some over-the-top sauce. Therefore, elite sucky food. Therefore, what are your thoughts on crab legs?"
What? Crab legs?
Let me hear. This is going somewhere, I promise.
They're fine. It's whatever. It's like
too much effort to eat, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends how you eat them, but if you need to crack them yourself, yeah, it's insane. And it's just like you just dunk it in butter. You're just eating butter. That's the best part of crab legs is butter.
So therefore, is his take about chicken wings correct or incorrect?
I actually see the reasoning, because you're like digging into those suckers. You're like, you feel like you're almost violating these chicken wings and you're just trying to get a bite.
We might get demonetized.
And you're like, your mouth is covered in sauce, man. You can't use your fingers. You got to use like 17 napkins just to eat 5 wings. So I see what he's saying, but at the same time, chicken, always good. Chicken's an elite meat. Among
What's going on here? This is amateur hour.
It's an elite meat. All right. And then you pair that with the yummy sauce. Look, that's always going to be good in my book. So I don't know if like wings suck, like our good friend here is saying. But I see what he says. We should have asked him about like boneless wings. What's the opinion on that? Not a lot of work there.
They're chicken nuggets.
They're dang good.
They're bone-in's better.
Really?
Yeah, bone-in's way better.
Yeah, I
think
I'm not afraid to admit it.
I think bone-in's better, but like
boneless is better.
Let's say you're out with your lady and I'm like, I don't want to get hands dirty. I don't want to get on my face. Just get the boneless, dip them in ranch, but I don't know. I would say this I see where he's coming from. I still like wings, don't get me wrong, but I would say wings are not enough bang for your buck. Way too pricey for what you're getting.
True.
And the other thing is, how do I phrase this? It's not a top tier food. Like it's not a top tier. Like it. Look, pizza is the 1-1. Top tier pizza, just top tier steak, top tier pizza is that's in S tier, whatever people call it. Top tier stuff. Wings, I don't think get close to steak or pizza.
I think that's totally fair. Wings they're kind of like a gimmicky kind of food. They're like no. Hear me out. Wings they're like reserved for game day. One other time do you eat wings really, right? It's always like at a sports bar for the Super Bowl. Like that's when you're getting wings. Sometimes you go to B-dubs, right? If there's some big games on though, right? Like that's the whole they've bought into this whole thing. They have a million TVs. They're a little gimmicky.
I think we have different palates. I've definitely gotten some wings when there isn't a big game.
No, I'm not saying you never do, but that's the connotation with wings, right? It's like game, grab some wings. PETA, they tweet out every year how you can just have cauliflower instead. All right, and they're trying to protect chickens.
Where's this going?
No, I'm just talking about. Yeah. I'm saying like wings are like they're so specific to sports, in my opinion. I don't know how they got that way, but they have. We have some opinions in the chat.
Let's go.
Nathan Milligan Nathan Millie says chicken wings better than chicken nuggets better than wings.
I would agree. Like if you
a good chicken tendy, yeah.
Oh, is that in the same? Are chicken tenders in the same vein as chicken nuggets?
Yeah. I mean,
okay, because
right.
I think I grade tenders and nuggets differently. I think a top tier tender beats a nugget.
I agree. I probably bunch them together.
No,
we think chicken nuggets here, like like dino nuggets, like still good, but I think they got to bunch them together. They're like good chicken nuggets, not like microwave. You microwave,
like
wings.
Chick-fil-A. I'm taking theirs.
Jack Carpenter says, my boy has never had a 20-piece all flats. And then Grant Farley says, all flats is a vet move. Flats? Really? Flats are the hardest ones to eat.
I think we've got some men in the chat, Chase. We got the fellas.
Dudes.
It is currently 1:20 a.m. on the East Coast right now. We got some fellas in the chat.
They're going 20-piece all flats, dog.
I like a 50-50 split between the drums and the flats.
I think drummies are better. I'm going to be honest. But I mean, I feel like the true wing purists are like flats, man. Like, you got to go flats.
I don't like a super saucy wing. I like more of a dry rub.
I like mine saucy.
Yeah.
Jack Carpenter says, best pizza spot in Utah.
You go first.
I've
got 3.
He's got 3. Carter's the pizza guy. I'm going to say one that's already on his list because he took me there. Estes Pizza.
Yeah.
In Salt Lake.
Bee Sting pizza is very good there.
Incredible bee sting.
Hot honey pepperoni pizza is fantastic. Estes is great. Supremos is great. If you're in Provo, I think Nico's is the best pizza I've had in Provo. I really like Nico's pizza, but yeah, those would be my 3 in Utah.
Yeah, I'd agree with you.
Yeah.
Those are the places I've had.
Nico's is pretty money.
Yeah, if you're in Provo for sure. I will throw in there Slackwater.
I haven't been.
Pizza. You never been?
No.
You're a pizza guy. You got to go to. I think you got to go to.
Is it in Provo?
They're about to open one in the Riverwoods, but as of right now, no. I think the nearest one's like Sandy or like Riverton.
Okay, that's closer to me.
But yeah. I forget you live up in Cottonwood. So yeah, go try Slackwater. It's really good. It's more like artisan, a little bit less like Estes is like a nice like New York style like big pie. Slackwater is like more personal pizzas. But that's an awesome spot.
Yeah, I like New York pie is my favorite pie. So
yeah,
I'm a little biased.
Yeah, you are.
Anyhow, anything else?
Nope.
All right.
Appreciate you all.
We can end the podcast right here. If there's more chats, we can respond. But that's it for the podcast. At Churchball Pod on everything. At Chase_Roger0. At CarterB8. Make sure to check out CarterCast stuff. Chase and I will be doing NBA stuff on there, and we'll also be doing some college basketball on there as well. And we'll be here all season long. Chase, we'll be doing our Kansas preview this week. We should have a special guest coming on Wednesday or Thursday this coming week. And we will be doing a live reaction, win or lose, after the Kansas game. So we'll be live on Twitter, live, right after the Kansas game on Tuesday at the Marriott Center. So Monday preview, Tuesday live reaction, Wednesday potential special guest. So make sure